Welcome back to Our True Identity, the podcast where we replace the lies we believe about ourselves with the truth of God's Word. I'm a grateful believer in Jesus Christ. I struggle with alcoholism and approval seeking, and my name is Craig, and I'm so glad you've joined me for this second episode in our special 6-part series, Pathway to Peace, a journey through the full Serenity Prayer. For many of us in recovery, this prayer is more than just familiar words. It's a quiet anchor, a simple, sacred rhythm we return to week after week. We speak it aloud not because we've mastered it, but because we're still learning how to live it, still learning how to let go, still learning how to trust. The words of the Serenity Prayer aren't magical, but they are meaningful, rich with wisdom, honesty, and humility. And when we let them do more than pass through our lips, they begin to shape how we live. In our last episode, we explored the most well-known part of the prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. These lines are the heartbeat of the prayer and of the recovery journey. We talked about how serenity isn't the absence of pain, but the presence of peace that comes from surrender. How courage isn't bravado, but the willingness to take responsibility, to face ourselves honestly, and to step into change, even when it's uncomfortable. And how wisdom is not some unreachable ideal, but a spiritual gift that helps us discern what belongs in God's hands and what He's asking us to carry. That first episode laid the foundation, inviting us to begin the daily practice of surrender. Today, we move into the next section of the Serenity Prayer, living one day at a time, enjoying one moment at a time. At first, this part might sound lighter than the others, but if you've spent any time in the trenches of addiction, anxiety, grief, shame, or even just the relentless pace of life, then you know how difficult this really is. Living one day at a time isn't easy. It means letting go of what was, releasing what might be, and staying rooted in what is. It means refusing to relive yesterday or control tomorrow. It's not just a recovery slogan, it's a spiritual discipline. And enjoying one moment at a time, that might be even harder. It means being present even when things are messy. It means finding joy, not just in victories, but in ordinary grace. It means slowing down enough to see what God is doing right here. That's where we're headed today. We'll walk through what it means to live in the now. We'll talk about the sacredness of one day, the beauty of a single moment, and the way trust grows when we stop racing ahead and start breathing here. You don't have to have your life figured out to walk this road. You don't need to be healed to start moving toward peace. All you need is willingness. Willingness to take the next step. Willingness to be honest. Willingness to show up for your own life. And that's what we're doing in this series. Showing up one step at a time for the life God is offering us. Not the life we wish we had or the one we think we lost, but the one we have right now. The life that still matters. The life that still holds purpose, beauty, and grace. This is where we turn our attention now to the invitation to live one day at a time and the quiet kind of strength it takes to stay present when everything in us wants to run. There is something deeply countercultural, even rebellious, about living one day at a time. The world we live in is constantly pressing us to think 10 steps ahead, to plan, to strategize, to worry about what's next. We're taught that success looks like being in control of the future, and failure looks like not having a 5-year plan. But that pressure to constantly look ahead does something subtle and dangerous to our souls. It teaches us to live anywhere but here. It teaches us to measure the value of our lives not by faithfulness in the present, but by imagined outcomes in the future. And when we've been through trauma, addiction, loss, or shame, that tendency becomes even stronger. We live in the wreckage of what was, or the fear of what might be. And in all that reaching backward and forward, we miss the sacred ground of now. Living one day at a time is not just a call to slow down. It's an act of trust. It's the recognition that we were never built to carry more than this day's worth of life. It's why Jesus said, "Do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself." Each day has enough trouble of its own. He wasn't telling us to be careless. He was showing us a way out of anxiety, a way of living rooted in the presence of God, who promises grace not in bulk for the next year, but in daily portions for the next step. The Israelites were given manna in the wilderness, and it lasted exactly one day. Any attempt to stockpile it ended in rot. And maybe the same is true for us. Maybe trying to hoard tomorrow's strength is what leaves us burned out, anxious, afraid. This is where the recovery journey starts to feel familiar, because living one day at a time is also the only way we learn to heal. Anyone who's walked through addiction or walked with someone who has knows the language. Just today. Just stay sober today. Just make the right choice today. And it's not about shrinking the bar or lowering the goal. It's about making change possible, real, human-sized. Because when you're trying to dig out of shame or repair the wreckage of broken relationships or rebuild your life after years of pain, tomorrow is too big. A month is too far. A year is impossible. But a day you can do. And it's not just a strategy. It's discipleship. It's the way God formed time itself. One sunrise, one sunset, daily mercies, new every morning. But even a single day can feel long when it's heavy. When grief shadows every hour, when cravings sneak up out of nowhere, when the silence in your head starts to sound like failure. This is where trust gets real. Because living one day at a time isn't about willing your way through the day. It's about asking God to meet you in it. It's about returning to Him moment by moment and saying, "I don't know how to carry all of this, but you do. So walk with me. Speak when I need to hear. Strengthen me when I want to give up. Remind me that I'm not alone." That's the prayer of the person who lives in recovery, not just from substance or behavior, but from fear, from shame, from the need to control everything. Living this way changes us. It teaches us to notice. It teaches us to listen. It forces us to become honest. You can fake a long-term vision. You can write up plans and mask all the uncertainty with goals and schedules. But you can't fake today. You're either present in it or you're not. You're either surrendered to it or you're fighting it. And when we live present, we start to see things differently. We start to realize that faithfulness isn't about what we might someday become. It's about what we choose to do now. Will I respond with grace in this conversation? Will I say no to temptation in this moment? Will I show up with love even when I'm tired? Will I pray when I feel numb? These are the moments that form us, not someday, but now. There is a strange relief in narrowing your focus to this one day. It simplifies things. You don't have to solve everything. You don't have to undo your past or secure your future. You only have to be faithful in what's in front of you. It may be messy, it may be painful, but it's also holy. And God is in it. Because He's the God who meets us, not just on the mountaintops, not just in the miracles, but in the mundane, in the grind, in the quiet, in the middle of real life. We don't need to feel guilty for not having our 5-year plan. We don't need to fear falling behind. The kingdom of God is not built on speed. It's not built on performance. It's built on faithfulness, on daily bread, on mercy that is new with each sunrise. So we live today. We trust God for what we need. And when the day is done, we rest. Not because we accomplished everything, but because God is still at work even while we sleep. And if we can learn to live that way, one honest day at a time, we begin to recover something we may have lost. Joy, and not the kind that only comes at the finish line, but the kind that's found in the middle, the kind that shows up when you least expect it, the kind you can learn to receive even before everything is fixed. We'll turn now to that next line in the prayer, enjoying one moment at a time, not just surviving it, not numbing it, not racing past it, but learning to enjoy it for what it is, even when life is far from perfect. Enjoying one moment at a time. It's such a quiet phrase, gentle, simple, almost easy to overlook. But for those of us walking the long road of recovery, for those navigating grief or trauma or the slow unlearning of shame, it may be the most radical line in the entire prayer. Because joy doesn't come easy when your story includes pain. Enjoyment doesn't come naturally when survival has been your full-time job. When you've spent so long just trying to stay afloat, the idea of enjoying something, even a moment, can feel indulgent, or foreign, or terrifying. But that's the beauty of the way this line is written. It doesn't ask us to enjoy every season or every situation. It doesn't demand that we slap on a smile or pretend to love what hurts. It simply invites us to enjoy one moment. Not the whole day, not the entire week. One breath, one sacred, ordinary, holy now kind of moment. A sip of coffee while the house is still quiet. A warm breeze cutting through a hard day. The laugh of someone you love. The way music hits you unexpectedly and you remember for just a second what it felt like to be okay. These moments might seem small, but for someone who's been lost in the shadows of fear, depression, or despair, they're everything. They're proof that light still finds a way in. There's a lie that floats around in the dark. The lie that you don't deserve joy, that because of what you've done or what you've endured, you're not allowed to enjoy your life, that healing has to be complete before celebration is possible, that rest has to be earned. But that's not the voice of God. That's the voice of shame. And shame has no authority in your story anymore. Not when you belong to a God who delights in his people. Not when joy is part of the fruit his Spirit grows in you. Not when grace has rewritten the ending you were so sure you had coming. To enjoy one moment at a time is to receive your life rather than resist it. It's to stop waiting for the pain to pass or the problem to resolve before you allow your heart to soften. It's to live with open hands, not clenched fists. To say, this moment may not be everything I wish it were, but I will not miss it. I will not sleepwalk through it. I will not numb my way past it or wish it away. Because this moment is real. And even if it's complicated, even if it's messy or fragile, it's a place where God is present. It's a place where love might still be possible. It's a place where you can breathe. Learning to enjoy a moment also means learning how to slow down. The pace of our world trains us to rush, to achieve, to constantly measure our worth by productivity, performance, and forward motion. But the soul doesn't heal at the speed of hustle. It heals in stillness. It heals in awareness. It heals when we begin to see our lives not as problems to be solved, but as gifts to be received. Not perfect gifts, not always easy ones, but gifts nonetheless. And like all true gifts, they are best appreciated in the moment they are given. Joy and gratitude are sisters. They grow in the same soil, and so often the doorway to joy is paved by the small, repeated act of giving thanks. Not just when things are good, especially when they're not. Gratitude doesn't erase grief, but it makes room for hope. It doesn't eliminate struggle, but it reminds us that struggle isn't the only thing happening. There is always more going on than just what's going wrong. There is always grace tucked into the cracks. There is always something worth noticing if we slow down long enough to see it. So we ask, what if joy didn't have to wait? What if healing included not only working through what's broken, but also savoring what's still good? What if learning to enjoy the moment was not a luxury for the spiritually mature, but a survival skill for the weary? What if God is not disappointed when you laugh? What if delight is not a distraction from holiness, but a doorway into it? There will be moments when enjoyment feels far away, when anxiety clouds the air or sadness sits heavy on your chest. And in those moments, you don't have to pretend. This prayer is not asking you to perform, it's asking you to stay awake, to notice, to be present, even in the ache. Because even when you cannot enjoy the moment, you can still be in it. And sometimes that's where joy finds you, not through effort, but through presence, not through control, but through surrender. This is the invitation. Enjoy one moment. Don't worry if the next one will match it. Don't look back to see if it's better than what came before. Just receive it. Let it be enough. Let it be holy. Let it be yours. There's something about staying present that forces us to confront the ache we've been avoiding, because presence and trust always walk hand in hand. And learning to stay means learning to believe we're safe enough to stay. Presence is not something we're naturally good at. Most of us have spent years learning how to live anywhere but here. We hide in the past, trying to rewrite what's already been written, or we sprint into the future, trying to outrun pain or prove we're worthy of what's next. Presence feels risky. It feels vulnerable, because being present means putting down the distractions. It means taking off the mask. It means choosing to feel whatever the moment holds, without numbing, without escaping, without trying to edit the experience into something easier. And yet, presence is the only place where healing happens. God doesn't work with our imagined versions of life. He meets us in the actual one, the messy, unresolved, beautiful, ordinary now, the one we're tempted to run from, the one that scares us, the one that doesn't look like anyone else's. And recovery, in its truest sense, is the process of returning to that place. It's the journey of learning to be in your own body, in your own story, without shame, without panic, with trust. That's why trust is inseparable from presence. Because if we don't believe God is with us in the moment, we won't stay in it. If we think we're on our own, we'll retreat or numb or start planning our escape. But when we begin to trust, not just that God exists, not just that He's real, but that He's close, something shifts. We stop managing every detail. We stop rehearsing every disaster. We begin to let go. And in that letting go, we make room for peace. Not the surface kind that depends on circumstances, the deeper kind that settles in our bones and reminds us, I am held, I am seen, I am not abandoned. But trust is not a one-time decision. It's a practice, and sometimes it's a fight, because life doesn't always feel safe. Pain has taught us to brace ourselves. Loss has trained us to expect the worst. And when things begin to go well, many of us flinch, waiting for the other shoe to drop. Trust feels unnatural because we've been burned before. People have failed us. We've failed ourselves. So trusting anyone, even God, feels dangerous. That's why trust in recovery is always gradual. It's built, not assumed. And it starts small. It starts by trusting God with one emotion, one conversation, one step. You don't have to trust Him with your whole story right away. Just the page you're on, the one that's confusing or heavy or painful, the one you've been avoiding. When we invite Him into that space, not in theory, but in raw honesty, He shows up. Not always with answers, but always with presence, always with grace. Practicing presence also means learning how to return, because no one stays present all the time. You'll drift, you'll numb, you'll get distracted. You'll catch yourself scrolling or zoning out or clenching your jaw without realizing it. And that's okay. The goal isn't perfection. The goal is return, to come back, to pause, to say, God, I wandered again, but I'm here now. That's presence, not constant focus, but repeated return. That's how trust grows, one return at a time. Sometimes presence looks like saying a breath prayer in the middle of chaos. Sometimes it looks like noticing the sun on your skin or the sound of your child's voice. Sometimes it looks like closing your eyes and whispering, I'm overwhelmed. Help me stay here. These aren't big dramatic moments. They're small, steady choices, and they add up. They build new rhythms in your soul. They teach your nervous system that you're safe, that you're not in danger anymore, that you can stop running. Trust is not about controlling outcomes. It's about surrendering to a God who knows more than we do, who sees farther than we can, and who holds what we can't carry. Trust doesn't mean we won't feel fear. It means fear doesn't get the final word. And presence doesn't mean life suddenly gets easier. It means we stop missing the life we're actually living. For many of us, trust feels like a door that's locked from the inside. We want to believe. We want to stay present. But there's a voice inside that says it's safer to shut down. That voice doesn't speak for the truest version of you. It's the voice of fear. And fear is not your master. God's perfect love casts out fear, not all at once, but moment by moment, in presence, in trust, in return. This is the quiet work of transformation. It's not flashy, it's not fast, but it's real, and it's how we learn to stay, not just in the room, not just in the relationship, in our own skin, in our own story, in the sacredness of now. We begin to see it more clearly now, the quiet way God meets us, not in what we planned, but in what we were willing to surrender. Not in the future we feared, but in the moment we were brave enough to stay in. This is the miracle that recovery reveals, not through grand gestures, but through presence, through the ordinary, through the slow and patient grace of God. Living one day at a time, enjoying one moment at a time, and trusting that presence is not a punishment, but a gift. This is where freedom begins to take root. Not freedom from pain or from hard days or even from struggle, but freedom from the lie that we have to escape the moment to survive it. When we surrender to the rhythm of now, we stop trying to carry more than we were made to hold. We stop pretending we have to fix everything, and we learn to rest in the truth that God is already present, working, healing, revealing, sustaining, even here. This day is not wasted. This moment is not small. It may be ordinary, but it's full of holy possibilities. It may look like silence or dishes or traffic or a deep breath before a hard conversation. But if we're willing to be in it, to stay with it, we may find that peace doesn't wait for perfection, that joy doesn't require the resolution of every question, that healing doesn't demand a fast-forward button. It simply asks for our presence. We are not defined by what we've lost. We are not defined by the worst day we ever had. We are not defined by how much we still don't understand. We are defined by the love of a God who never leaves, who walks with us through each moment, whether we're stumbling or standing, whether we're crying or breathing deeply for the first time in a while. The God who calls us beloved even when we feel broken. The God who sees each small act of courage as sacred. The God who smiles not just at our progress, but at our willingness to keep showing up. When we learn to live like that, to trust the day, to receive the moment, to be present even in the unknown, we begin to change. Not in a way that earns God's approval, but in a way that finally lets it soak in. We begin to notice light again. We begin to open up where we were once closed. We begin to soften, not because life has gotten easier, but because grace has gotten deeper. We begin to walk in peace, not because everything is calm around us, but because we are learning that we are not alone in it. And when the day comes to a close, we don't measure it by what we accomplished. We measure it by whether we stayed with it, whether we kept breathing, whether we remembered, even for a moment, that we are loved right here. That's enough. That's more than enough. In just a moment, I'll offer a personal invitation to step further into recovery, into community, into healing. But before we get there, take one more breath. Let this moment be what it is. Don't rush out of it. Don't try to perfect it. Just receive it, one moment at a time. That's where peace begins, and that's where God always is. Father God, we come before you with open hands and tired hearts, grateful for your presence that meets us in this moment. You are not far off. You are not waiting for us to become someone else before you draw near. You are here, gentle, steady, kind, and we rest in that. Thank you for the grace that covers us today, for the invitation to live one day at a time, for the reminder that we don't have to carry yesterday's pain or tomorrow's pressure. We only have to be present with you in this day. We only have to be faithful in what's in front of us. Help us to see today not as something to survive, but as something sacred. Teach us how to be here, not lost in the past, not overwhelmed by the future, but grounded in the peace that you provide in this very moment. We ask for the courage to enjoy what we so often overlook. Open our eyes to the small gifts you've placed along our path, a kind word, a deep breath, a moment of quiet, a flicker of hope. Let us not rush past them. Let us not disqualify ourselves from joy because of our past or our pain. Teach us to receive joy as a form of trust. Teach us to slow down, not just to rest, but to remember that you are in control and we are safe with you. God, we confess that presence is hard. Trust is hard. Some of us are still learning how to stay when everything in us wants to run. Would you help us return to you again and again? When we drift, draw us back. When we shut down, gently awaken us. When we forget, remind us. And when we can't hold on anymore, hold us. Thank you that healing is not something we have to manufacture. It's something you are doing patiently, faithfully, lovingly, one step at a time, one moment at a time, one breath at a time. And even when we feel stuck, you are not. Even when we feel empty, you are not far. Even when we feel behind, you are not disappointed. We place this day into your hands, not with fear, but with surrender, not with control, but with confidence that you are enough, that your grace is sufficient, that your mercies are new, not just every morning, but every moment we choose to return to you. Thank you for this time, for the truth that anchors us, for the peace that outlasts our understanding, and for your love, which never runs out. In Jesus' name, amen. If you've been listening and something in your heart feels a little softer, a little more open, that's not by accident. That's what happens when we sit in the truth together, when we stop running and allow grace to speak louder than fear. And if you found even one honest breath of peace in this episode, just one, then let that be enough to keep going, one day at a time, one moment at a time. But you don't have to walk it alone.
If you're local to the South Hills of Pittsburgh, we would love to welcome you to our Celebrate Recovery ministry at Peters Creek Baptist Church. Every Friday night at 7:00 p.m., we gather at 6300 Library Road in South Park to pursue healing together. It's not about having the answers. It's about showing up. It's about finding a safe place to be honest. It's about letting God meet you exactly where you are and beginning to believe, maybe for the first time, that there's still hope for your story. And if you're not local, you're still not alone. You can find a Celebrate Recovery group near you by visiting crlocator.com. Thousands of churches across the country are hosting meetings just like ours, spaces where people are learning to live free step by step. You don't have to be clean, sober, or spiritually polished to walk through the door. You just have to be willing. You can also learn more about our church and our ministries at pcbc.church. And if Fridays don't work for you, our sister Celebrate Recovery group meets at Crossroads Ministries in Finleyville every Monday night at 7 p.m. There's space for you in both places. There's space for your questions, for your doubt, for your grief, for your beginning.
In our next episode, we'll continue our journey through the Serenity Prayer by looking at the line, accepting hardship as a pathway to peace. That's a line that doesn't sound easy, and it isn't, but it's also one of the most powerful truths buried inside this prayer, because peace doesn't just come from ease. Sometimes it comes through the hard places we'd rather avoid, the places where God does his deepest work. So that's where we're going next. But for now, take what you've heard today and hold it gently. Don't try to analyze it or fix it. Let it breathe. Let it settle. Let it become part of the way you walk through today. Because peace is not just possible, it's promised. And it begins in the moment you choose to stay.